Hey friends, Stephanie here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am delighted today to introduce you to Molly Lawney. Hey Molly.
Hey.
I had the absolute pleasure of coaching Molly. Actually, over the winter, we worked together for about 3 months. And I am so excited to have you share, Molly, about yourself and a little of your story, what you do, and the amazing work that you did and the amazing results you created. So, to start with, I would love to have you just give us a brief intro to you and what you're all about.
So I started working with Stephanie for a couple of reasons. So I had done a couple of Akashic readings with her, and they were really awesome. And I learned a lot about myself and my children. And I also am an energy worker. I don't love the word healer because I think it's a little too outcomes based. So I'm still working on the language for what I do. But I had opened up a business last summer, and was still kind of trying to find my confidence, both as someone in the healing arts and doing energy work, as well as just sort of reclaiming my own spirituality and my own power in a lot of ways. So I just needed I knew I needed some support around that, which is sort of how I ended up with you. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think that our journey together, when I look back at it, it's one of those things where I think it's so easy to discredit magic and like magical happenings and just write them off as coincidence. But then when I look back at like the timeline of our work together and sort of what happened during that time, it's very obvious to me that a lot really transpired and a lot of growth happened during the few months that we worked together. So I probably jumped ahead a few questions, but me in a nutshell is energy worker slash tarot reader slash sort of spiritual doula. And I have two kiddos, ages 9 and 4, who just challenge me every day to rediscover what it means to be my best self. And I live in Vermont. I think that's most of the detail.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And, I just have to say, like, I'm not a mom, but like it's been so inspiring to me just to like witness you going through your journey as a mom and like really like wanting to parent like from your values, but also like taking care of yourself. And I just think that's so amazing and important. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thank
sharing
you. I do think that, I think I even told you at the beginning of working with you, like, I've been feeling like this call to do some inner child healing, and I just am resisting it so hard and I don't want to do it. So, like, we won't go there right now. And then, of course, by the end of our time together, we went there, not really purposefully, but it just sort of happened. And that experience of doing some of my like intergenerational healing had such a strong impact on myself as a parent and my approach to parenting. So it was almost like a second awakening, it was like I had my spiritual awakening, and it was like an awakening to like who I am as a person, and healing some of my own inner child stuff. So yeah, we did a lot in what, 3-4 months.
We did do a lot. Well, you are a Capricorn, so
That's true.
super
That's true.
Capricorn. Yeah, the to-do list.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, so I know you shared a little bit about like what brought you to coaching. I know you mentioned like you were just looking for support. What was it that made you decide like, yes, I'm ready to do this now?
It was definitely the readings with you, because, as you know, I was also going through some turmoil around my 4-year-old's health. She had cancer as an infant, and so we're always doing all this follow up, and some things came up around that were a little bit scary, and some questions about her health. And the Akashic reading that I did with you was so incredibly impactful and supportive during that time. And then later when we started working together, she had that whole weird GI thing. She's always just throwing new stuff at me just to keep me on my toes. And so I think having some support around that, but it's more than just like the usual emotional support that you would get from, say, a therapist or a friend. There was a deeper level to it, and sort of what is the greater meaning to this? And I always want to say, what's the lesson? And you're always going, Molly, there doesn't always have to be a lesson. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but what am I supposed to do? It's not always an answer to that. And so you're so great at like slowing me down and making me, be here and not always thinking ahead to like what I need to learn to make karma right in the world. Anyway, there's the Capricorn pressure, right? The weight on my shoulders. So I think that, the fact that we were working together during some of that sort of tumultuous emotional time for me, some of the somatic work that we did together and things like that were really just very grounding for me. And I was able to kind of look bigger picture and settle more in a way that I don't think I'm always capable of doing on my own. I'm certainly making improvements with that, but it's nice to have some support with that. So I think that that's really what brought me to you, was just the impact of those Akashic readings and just being like, I want more. I want to know how I can access some of this on my own. Of course, then when we started at that first session we had together, when you were like, I think we like got into this like, spiritual space, and you were basically like, so what do you hear? What are you feeling? I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to tell me that? What are you doing asking me? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh God, now I have to do this myself, which was exactly what I needed, because you empowered me to be able to access some of this energy myself and to take back my own power. But it was just very like right into the frying pan.
Yeah.
Which was great.
So feeling the discomfort of like being invited to step into like your abilities as like a magical human, and like feeling like, wanting me to do it for you, but realizing like, wow, you actually could do it. And it was like super magical, like definitely like for me as well.
It was, there were a few moments. Yeah. It was one of these things where like, again, I would look back and be like, I don't really think we did anything. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, there was that time that I totally like skipped ahead of you. You were about to tell me to receive this magical crown, and I'd already received it, and a shockwave through my spine. And I yelled out. And I was like, that was real. There's no way that was imagined. So yeah, it was quite the experience. And I think, I don't think that I knew that I had that in me. And so I think that was what was so powerful, and why, honestly, we worked together for a brief time, because you sent me on my way and I just felt like I really was ready. And so like that to me is the biggest sign of good coaching, is like, I just felt like I was ready to move forward, and that I could do some of this work on my own. So yeah, super impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like you were surprised by like the amount of skills that you actually had when you like went to actually tap into it.
Growing up kind of discrediting, as a child, I felt like the world was very magical. And then as I stepped into young adulthood, I dismissed it all and was like, this is a bunch of baloney. And I really embodied my Capricorn energy and left behind my rising Pisces. And I just decided everything had to be black and white and very clear cut. And I think part of that is that, I mean, women especially, because we often are the ones who go into this sort of spiritual work, we're not ever supported or taught that this stuff is even okay, let alone that we have the power to do it. And so I've always been someone who thrived with a lot of encouragement, and my oldest daughter is the same way. She just had a teacher experience where that was not really the case. And so I'm always like, she needs this like higher level of support of just like, yes, you're doing a good job. Yes, you have the skills. You can do this. You might have to work a little harder, and that's what I need when I'm learning a new skill, is just someone to be like, you have this in you. Like, this is not some weird ability that people have to be born with. Like you're already there. You just need to discover it. But nobody ever said that to me. And so until I met you. And so I think that really was surprising to me. Like, oh, I thought you were going to like tell me what I needed to know and do everything for me. And you're like, nope, it's time for you to do it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I did, and it was awesome. And I'm still doing it. And that's what's so beautiful about this.
Yeah, I'm so proud of you. You really did beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you.
And it was so fun to watch you kind of like getting your wand in hand, like, oh shit, like I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a bit, but like, what is it like? What are you most proud to have overcome or like have created through this process? Because so you called in the support that you knew that you needed, and then within
Mhm.
that support, like you did the work. So tell us your accomplishments.
Gosh, there's so many things to say. So I have this really strong bond now with a couple of my spiritual guides that I knew were always there. I knew there was a connection and that I'd been called to work with them, but our work together really solidified that on a more like almost physical sense. Like it was sort of very nebulous to me until we really did some specific exercises to call in those energies. And then I was like, now it's literally like all I have to do is like start a thought and immediately what I'm asking for just manifests. It's like really kind of crazy. And so like that line of communication was opened up so much for me, which has been really awesome. And then I think, I've always struggled with boundary setting and with, stepping into my own power and um, having support in the process of some really, really hard boundary setting that I had to do with a close family member. There's a lot of fear around how their reaction would be, and the reaction was not comfortable for me at all. But I just felt like going through that was also the most empowering thing I have ever done in my life. Like it was suddenly like cutting a chain that had like this, cannonball in the end that had been dragging me down. And all of a sudden, like, and my relationship with this person is now much stronger for it. But it really led to some great things. So it wasn't like I cut this person out of my life. It was just that something really needed to shift energetically, and it has been. But I don't think that I would have had it in me or known that I had it in me if we hadn't been doing all of this together. And I can't even remember exactly like what happened along the way to get me there, which is the part that's like so crazy to me. I'm like, what? Like, it's not like we did a specific exercise to get me there. It was just like, I just kept leveling up until I was here. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what I love about this work, is that it snowballs, right? Like you work on one thing and all this other stuff just lines up magically. And it's just, I don't know if it's this easy for everyone, but it's been really awesome. Not
Yeah.
that my life is easy. Trust me, I have my own, I am very much a human, but yeah.
As we all are.
Yes,
Me
exactly.
included.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody has their own process, and I think you were so ready to go. And you were willing to step out of your comfort zone repeatedly, even when part of you was like, what the fuck? But
Exactly.
you went there anyway,
Yeah.
and then you were surprised like by what you
Yeah.
found. And so I think, like, as your coach, that's one thing I saw, that
Mhm.
especially contributed to the results that you got. And it sounds like, more than anything specific that you did, or experience, it was just about like changing your sense of your own power and, like the agency that you have in whatever circumstance, whether it's with your family or, like in your business, or just with yourself or with your guides or what have you, that you're like fully capable of navigating like whatever comes up, and like you can have your own back. That's what I
Yeah.
saw from you. So
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a beautiful
yeah,
way of putting it.
yeah. So I just celebrate you for
Thanks.
your courage and your
Yeah.
commitment. And yeah. So um just to wrap up, is there anything else that feels important that you'd like to share about the experience?
I think you have a really wonderful way of knowing when people need to slow down and like take a breath. 'Cause that's a struggle for me. I really learned a lot about sort of taking my time with you. I'm someone who has never liked awkward silence, even if it's not awkward to the other person. I'm just like, if there's silence, I will fill it. And some of our conversations have had some silence in them, and it has been not uncomfortable or awkward at all. It's been really like, it's almost like the magic between everything else. So just learning to slow down and integrate things and not feel like I have to like learn the lesson and fast forward through my entire life. was just a fun unintended side effect of our work together. You have this presence about you that is very grounding. And I think that for someone like me who's often going a mile a minute, it's really hard for me to like settle into a focus. I mean, we talked about I think you described me as a spiral, and then I think I said at one point that like I figured out why I keep appearing as a spiral, and it's because I'm constantly spiraling. And then all of a sudden at one point during our time together, and I think it was really when I realized how important it, like how everything else pales in comparison to like the importance of my children being healthy, that like all of a sudden it was like and then I was there in the center of that storm and able to like get perspective on everything else, and that was really powerful too. So anyway, I digress, but yeah, I think having that grounding, and I think because you maybe have been through some of that yourself of like having trouble focusing, that you know what you need and you're able to like help other people with that, which is really powerful.
Awesome. Yeah, it was so cool to see how you just like landed like in that clarity.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing so openly about your experience and your process and all of your kind words. And before we go, I just wanted to invite you, if you'd like to share like how people can connect with you and the amazing work that you do in your business. And I know you're just had an open house and expanding. So give us the links.
Sure. Yeah. So my business is called Open Channels Reiki and Energy Healing. So I offer two types of energy work. One is called Tongren, which I actually have it right here. I use an acupuncture model as sort of the energetic representation of the client's energy body. And using a magnetic hammer, we tap on specific points along the body that correspond with different symptoms or illnesses, systems of the body. Some of them line up with traditional Chinese medicine, and many of them are used in a more sort of like anatomy and physiology based model. It just depends on what we're working on. But we basically remove energy blockages in the body and then follow up with Reiki to kind of calm the sensory and nervous system. And it's really, really impactful. I credit my 4-year-old's remission from doing regular Tongren. I've seen people with extreme anemia bounce right back. Long COVID symptoms disappear, like lots of different things. And I never will fully be able to explain what is happening. So I'm always like, magic. And it is, it feels like magic. It doesn't always happen instantaneously, but sometimes it does. And the more open people are to it and the more committed they are to the ongoing process of moving the energy, the more successful they tend to be. And then I also offer tarot readings. So my website is openchannelsenergy.com. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook. And I think that mostly covers it. Yeah. And I'm Vermont based, but I also do things virtually as well, just like everyone else.
Yeah, well, such an exciting time for you and expansion in the business. So I hope for anyone who's tuning in, if you feel like you're resonating with Molly, definitely check out her stuff. Thank you for being willing to share.
Thank you.